The president of the United States talking with the president of China today to determine what their position on all of this is. China's been kind of playing themselves on the fence right now, trying to be the guy above the fray. But whether or not that's going to work for him, that's a whole different ballgame. Senator David Carlucci from the state of New York joins us. Senator, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Oh, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So far, we're talking about giving $800 million to $1 billion to Ukraine. Is that going to be enough to help them stave off the entire Russian army?
Well, it's going to be some of the money over a long period of time. The total package is $13.6 billion to help the Ukrainian people. Much of that will be in humanitarian aid. The $800 million is line itemed in specific types of weapons, armor, helmets, drones, that type of equipment. But a lot of this is in just positioning U.S. troops in Europe, obviously not in the Ukraine, but in the area. So we're talking about a big sum of money, and I'm glad that the president has been moving quickly. I know some have said it hasn't been quick enough, but the reality is we've got to be very careful because every action has a reaction, and the last thing we want is this to escalate to outside the boundaries of the Ukraine.
You know, as I sit and watch the events of the Russian leader, I wonder if he looks at the world the same way that other people do. It seems like to him, if we don't escalate, then he thinks we're weak.
Yeah, to get in the mind of Vladimir Putin, wow, right? Who could imagine? He's putting logic on its head, of course. But I think the only way forward on this is the conversation that President Biden is having with the leader of China today. We've got to make sure that we do everything we can to neutralize China and start to re-engage in these conversations with countries that we haven't wanted to really talk too much to in the past. So that's something that's very important. I think it's going to be that diplomatic relationships. President Biden has said, look, this could be a long, protracted battle. So we have to be prepared. We have to make the tough decisions, but we can't make any knee-jerk reactions.
New York Senator David Carlucci with us on News Talk 820 WBAP. I look at China in all of this. They seem to want to try to stay above the fray, and I've gotten the impression, even when they've made statements of support for Vladimir Putin, that if he takes this too far, because of China's economic power, they don't want to become a pariah the way Russia has. They'll cut Russia loose.
That is the hope. Look, we see reports coming out of China today where the Chinese media, which is tightly controlled, has started to put out some images and some information about what's actually happening in Ukraine, which is painting Vladimir Putin in a more realistic picture and in a negative light, and one that I agree 100% that is our strategy. We have to make Russia the pariah, and obviously they are. It's just the facts. But we need support not just in Europe, but we need support with countries from around the world, particularly China, particularly those even in the Middle East and in South America, where a large amount of oil and gas come from. These are some of the concerns where you can see that this can easily escalate to what people are saying, another world war. And that's the absolute last thing we want. So we have to realize that this is what's at stake, and we have to do what we can to help the people of Ukraine. And my heart goes out to them. It's absolutely terrifying what's happening. And at the same token, we have to be very judicious to not let this escalate beyond the borders.
I wonder what's going to happen once there is a ceasefire and maybe Russia pulls back behind its own borders. I wonder if the West, especially European nations, are going to say, okay, well, we sanctioned when we needed to. Now we can just take them off and go back to normal again, which is probably what Vladimir Putin is counting on.
Well, that's it, right? You think about what is the long-term play here, right? Where is the win for either country, right? That let's say the Ukraine prevails, but you still have this insurgence, or vice versa, where Russia prevails, but there's still this insurgence and possibly funded by the United States and other countries to push back against the Russian leadership in the Ukraine. And this could be a protracted, another version of the Cold War. It's really stacking up to be something like that, where this could be really prolonged and have ramifications beyond just a short while.
New York Senator David Carlucci with us on News Talk 820 WBAP. David, we'll talk to you again. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Look forward to it. Thanks so much.
All right.
For decades, Rolling Stone has set the bar for entertainment publications. Today, Rolling Stone Music Now takes over in podcast form. The late Taylor Hawkins on stage fright.
I have major stage fright. Been on the road 28 years, literally. I had a year and a half off of this feeling I have today, which is, that's how I feel every time.
It's easy to make light of that a little, but that's a big part of Eddie Van Halen was abusing substances because...
Oh, because he was scared, dude.
Rolling Stone Music Now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.